Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, meeting of the Grafton Cable Advisory Committee to order. We have, as far as I know, we have nobody out on the web,
That is correct. There's
out on Zoom.
nobody on Zoom.
Our fifth member is not here at just now. So we can do without roll call. But it's time to welcome our new member, Megan Bertino.
Nailed it.
Hi. Why don't you
Welcome.
tell us a little bit about yourself and, I've read a little bit, but.
Sure. So I moved to Grafton. I bought my house about a year ago, moved in August of last year after some renovations. I work from home. I work for a fiber internet company based out of the Carolinas, as their corporate counsel. So I am a lawyer. I am not this committee's lawyer. The town of Grafton pays its lawyers quite well to advise this committee. I am not looking to step on anyone's toes in that capacity.
No, I saw fiber internet. I wasn't quite sure what that was saying. I got us our municipal fiber network for back years ago. We just, we used some money that we had to pay cable, what's it called, contract to build a network for the town buildings. But I think what you're talking about is different, isn't it?
So in most of the states that we operate in, we're what's called an overbuilder. So Comcast, Spectrum, AT&T, whoever it is, already has their network deployed. We build alongside them as a competitor to them. Providing internet.
You're not doing television.
No, it is exclusively internet. We are technically a cable company in 2 states, but we are in the process of spinning that out.
Are you in Massachusetts? You cover Massachusetts?
No.
You know?
The furthest north we currently are is, on the East Coast is Virginia, and in the Midwest is Ohio and Illinois.
It's funny how they altered the names cable to kind of originally represent coax.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you can
literally,
interpret it in many
a
ways, yeah.
cable is any number of things.
So cable is multi-channel video.
Yeah.
And
Well-
is governed by one part of the FCC.
No, I was referring to the physical
Oh, yes.
cables. I mean,
Yes, because
Coax, yeah.
yes. So it was coax and it was copper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
right.
telephone was copper.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're actually dealing with a confusion right now with a town that gave us a cable franchise to sign, and we have to be like, no,
We don't need that.
we operate on cables, but we are not cable.
Right.
So,
It's
Well-
a data company.
yeah.
It's basically data. Well, everything is data.
Yeah.
Voice, video, you name it, everything.
But that's interesting that you build, you build to compete.
Mhm.
So you have to get on all the poles too.
Yes.
This was a big deal with my project.
Yes.
They
He
use
didn't
the
mean
same
you.
stuff.
Oh,
Well,
no,
sorry.
so, my reaction was because I don't like going on the polls.
Yeah,
It's, the poll owners can be challenging to deal with.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Colleen is here, I think.
the company I work for prefers to go underground,
Oh,
for like network stability.
yeah, but do you go down George Hill Road on, underground? No.
They'll try really hard.
or maybe a new development's probably, a lot of new developments are on the ground,
It's,
all the utilities.
it really depends. As you come up to bridges,
Connie.
for example, you have to go, overhead because you're not going under the water. But our network, the goal is about 80% underground.
Yeah, I'd like to, you know, depends on where you are, but, like around here, the power company says we're never gonna put the power underground because it costs too much. Putting stuff under, well, power's harder, but, putting stuff underground is hard, at least in this kind of thing.
Some new developments in town have it underground, though. They have the utilities.
In Grafton, for example.
Yeah.
I think we require the
All new
the
developments.
power and phone, to be, underground. I think that started back
Yeah,
some years ago. In fact, there's at least one or two subdivisions
Yeah.
where the old part is on poles.
Oh, no
And the
kidding.
new part, you know, that was, came in later is lower. Colleen, our new member,
Hi, Megan.
Hello.
Megan.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
we're all called to order. You have any questions or?
For Megan?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was there when she was appointed at the select board
Yeah.
meeting, and she did lovely. I'm very excited she's part of the team. It's gonna be awesome.
Good. Okay. This is where we'd have public input if there was any public to provide input.
No.
Anybody on Zoom?
Nobody on, no.
There's nobody connected.
Not
and-
tonight, I don't see anybody.
And, I do, look for any input from the committee members as public, they're members of the public too, if there's something that they wanna not bring up. Apparently not. Reorganization. I don't feel like I'm getting the job done well enough, and I don't feel really, really focused on what to do, what we should be doing. So I wanna see if it's time to reorganize. You've noticed that the agendas didn't get done quickly and correctly the first try, and, you know, a lot of that stuff. Just, it's making my head hurt. What do you think?
I'm not interested, so.
We don't even have a vice president,
Or chair, vice chair?
vice chair, that's it, yeah, vice chair, excuse me.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
That's why we need to get organized.
I move to appoint you as for re-election, as the chair of the committee.
He's trying to avoid that.
I know.
He's not gonna accept it.
Well, we need to have someone.
Right.
True.
But I'd just assume that someone else, would, do it.
Unless anybody else has interest.
So, I mean, obviously, I have no problem chairing a committee, but I'm still one of the newer members, so I don't want to step on any toes.
No.
You know, if nobody wants to do it, I don't have a problem doing it.
Well, as far as membership goes, there's only Bob and myself are the older people.
Exactly.
And, so there's not a lot of pick as
No.
far as
No.
someone who's not a new member.
Yep. And we know that Bob doesn't want it. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think it's a lot of responsibility being the chairman of the committee itself. The other thing I'll make note of, I share this with you, and that is that, I plan to retire from my job and so forth, next year. Probably about around the summer or so. I don't, it's kind of open-ended, but, I'll be 67 in March, so.
Still a young chicken.
Yeah, well, boy, does I want to kind of enjoy some of my retirement. And there's a bit of a project between my brother and I, with my parents' inheritance and so forth and things. This is where I was asking some maybe help from you. There is some property up in Waterville, the Waterville Valley, that we're going to be spending some time making some adjustments and changes to it. And that will take a fair amount of time to do all that. And my thought is it would be a nice thing to live up there. The structure itself is the house that exists there, through all of the work in it, it would take a lot of renovation to bring it to what it would be. So it's really a cost benefit to basically just start from scratch. Get it all down, put up new, and the plan was to possibly live up there, so that we would have maybe about 10 years worth of living up there, maybe then come back down to Grafton. I have an older of two daughters that is interested in living in our house that's here. She's renting in Worcester. She doesn't want to come in now. She wants us gone and have the whole place to herself. So, okay, but ultimately, it I think it would work out pretty well. So I'm thinking, and I had to think about what my length of term is, because I think it's 2 years, and I think it would expire in the
You
next.
talking about being a chair?
No,
Oh,
On
for
the
your,
committee.
yeah.
And I think it would expire next June. I don't think it expires this June. I'll have to double check that, but in any case, I suspect that I would only be remaining on the committee till probably mid-next year.
June 26th.
Yep.
June
Next year,
20th.
okay, so next year. So basically, I would last until that is my term. So it's not as if I hold the position that I'm gonna be in it for any great length of time. And although I've been on the committee for a long time and have had some involvement with it, I haven't had much the same kind of connection and familiarity that Bob has had, because he's on so many other committees and he's interacted with more people here and there, which I've not at all. So I'm just about as green as it comes when it comes to that kind of connection. However, granted, I know that you're new to this, but you're not new to the personnel and the people there
Exactly.
with the municipal center and the interaction with them.
Yep.
My job makes it so that I don't have that luxury of being able to do all of those things. That I don't know about what your schedule's like, but it seems that you have greater time on your hands to be able to do that with Grafton government than I do. So that would be a hindrance to me in terms of being able to make those efforts, because it all have to be, after 6 every night if I were to do anything, and the municipal center's only open certain nights that are late. So it really inhibits what effects that I could have, that I could do after work hours to achieve the tasks that are needed as committee chairman.
Okay.
So having said that, so I'll retract the.
I don't think anybody seconded it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an honor,
But
don't
if
get me
you
wrong.
have interest, I would like to,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking
God,
for?
okay.
Move
Nominate.
to appoint.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then, Colleen. Would you be on the Board of Select and
Yes.
on
And
the committee
probably,
at the same
Yeah.
time?
probably a
Okay.
bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That when you get
Okay.
on the, fingers crossed. When you get on the select board, you get appointed to a bunch of committees anyway too. You do
Exactly.
a lot of committee work, so it would be no sweat off my back.
I see.
So I move to appoint Colleen Roy as the chair of this committee.
Second.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I can second, so. Any other nominations? If none.
Well, we have a treasurer's position.
No,
No.
we'll do one
For-
at a
for
time.
Right.
Just for this one position.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Over to you.
Thank you. All right, so up next, we're gonna need a vice chair. Thank you. Would you be at all interested in being vice chair?
As a temporary circumstance, to fill in for when you're not there, I suppose I could in fact do that
I
duty
have a
as
super
well.
good attendance record, so don't worry.
I've noticed that being vice chair is not a very heavy duty on most of the stuff I'm on.
Yep.
So I might,
Oh, would you I'm sorry, I thought you were trying to step away, so
well, I'm, it's okay if we get other people in, but like, what is it? I'm vice chair of something, and I Mike,
IT,
get,
the IT committee,
oh, am I?
yeah.
My whole duty is every few months I send Dave a message, have you announced this month's meeting yet? And that's the end of it. And I show up at all the meetings, you know, to keep the quorum going, and that's, you know, it's about it. So I could do it.
Right?
Right now, I don't think we have a vice chair.
We don't.
No.
No, we didn't, we lost our vice chair, and we didn't reorganize, cause typically you reorganize in the summer, I guess, when we get appointments, and so it's kind of a little off to be reorganizing this early, but makes sense.
You reorganize when you need to reorganize.
You can do it as many times as you want, exactly. So, of course, if you're okay, we can nominate Bob to be vice chair, and you could probably remain clerk.
That's fine.
It seems how we're
Yes.
trending here, okay. Alright, I can take a motion.
I'll take a motion to nominate Bob as vice chair,
I'll second it.
and
Alright, motion made and seconded, any discussion, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Declare the motion carried. And then for clerk, I can take a motion for clerk.
I nominate Corson for
Second.
secretary.
Clerk.
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 Clerk,
That's right, different
Right.
committees have different wording.
Yep, motion made and seconded, any discussion, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Declare the motion carried. Because we aren't really doing too much financially, do we wanna hold off on appointing a treasurer at this time?
yeah, I don't know what the treasurer is gonna do.
Correct.
When you figure it out, we'll do something about it.
I love that plan. Alright, so we got reorganization all set. Next up is the licensing agreement, is that what that says?
Yeah,
on the
current
agenda?
licenses.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to review the current licenses? I didn't see a packet posted for this week, so I certainly wouldn't.
They're online. I've read
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Good job, okay. So does anybody have any discussion, or how do you guys wanna handle being familiar with them?
Well, it's, the way I see it is that it's something that you only need to kind of review to it if there's some question as to, a conflict or some issue that you have to resolve, that the license may have the answer to that as a past license, or using it for the purposes of a future creation of a license, as a guide.
Yep.
Other than that, I'm not sure how much familiarity you really need to have with it specifically.
Right, so, but that's just the first line of our charge, is to be
Right.
familiar with it. So I guess we just, in order to fulfill our charge, I'm gonna go line by line with it. It says to be familiar with our license agreements, let's be familiar with them. So if I would say we could just keep it as a standing agenda item, have it always be in the package, so if we ever wanna talk about it, if we ever need to
Right.
refer to it, it's right there at the tip of our fingers.
Especially if someone from the public comes in
Mhm.
with a question, we're not having to scramble.
It's just easy access, and then, keeps top of mind for that. So, and there's nothing that, when you were reviewing them, anything that stand out to you that you wanted to discuss or dive deeper
They're
into?
pretty
Boiler, yeah.
standard
Yeah.
for, I mean, I don't review a lot of cable licenses, so they look standard to me.
Did you say you do review?
No.
No.
I work in,
Yeah.
like right-of-way licenses, which,
Yeah, but, you're probably a lot closer to, Those
cable
documents
licenses than
than,
most people, yes.
most of them. I did a lot of them up until the last couple. So I know Bill August's take on, I think he's done now. I think someone else is gonna do licenses in the future. I think I saw that he was stepping down, or, you know, getting out of the business.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's true, but it's a little ways off yet. It's actually several years off yet. It was further than I thought it was.
One of them, I think, is 2 or 3 years out, and the other is maybe 7 years
Yeah,
out.
yeah, it's
I
a
wanna
5-year.
say. Yeah.
I think it's so-
I do think it would be worth as a committee project to review other cable franchises
Love
of
it.
the towns around us.
Yep.
To make sure we're getting just a good a deal as all of our neighbors.
well, I think that.
We
Bi-
are
Bi- Bi-
getting
Bill,
better than all
Oh,
the other
good.
towns.
no, we have to get better.
No, but we are.
Bi-
But I think it's a definitely a worthwhile exercise to
Yeah.
be,
Mm.
making sure we're all,
the old hearing is not as great as it could be.
Bill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, with all my experience with Bill, that, he knows what we can get. I did get some stuff when I was, but there was a different level or type of negotiation that went on in those days. These things are getting pretty well, you know.
What I recall was, first of all, that Bill August was very versed in these licenses, because he didn't not only do it with Grafton, he did it with many other towns as well.
Yeah.
And he was the perfect person to handle our license, but from his perspective, the one in the Grafton one was far better than what the other towns have. And we basically had the upper hand as to what we get to get. We got the maximums that were allowed, permitted by law, and other factors where a lot of other towns didn't get anywhere near that. They weren't able to get those types of returns. So there were a lot of things that we were very good at negotiating, and things like setting up the fiber optic network that we had in the town and things such as that. There aren't other towns that have that ability of being able to do just that, and as a result don't have the funds for making that happen, where we could do that. It also gave us the position to have drops and other facts that we couldn't have before. So we've had some wonderful licenses that have been established, so that we will have the revenue and the means of carrying different broadcasts in different parts of the town, and have the necessary funds to support it too.
Has the town seen revenue from these franchises dip in any meaningful way over the last decade?
That's not the fact I have.
Subscribers, you mean?
So typically franchises are set up, and I can't remember how it is in these two, but the town receives, call it 5%
Yes,
of the,
that's what he said, the maximum.
right.
When I started, we were getting nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe it.
and the cable committee got a town meeting vote for $900 so that they'd have something. And we got up over a couple of license cycles. Got
Sure.
up,
But
I
as,
saw that we got up to the 5%, and that's you have to do a good bit to get that. You have to demonstrate that you need it and so on.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
But has the town, as people cut the cord, as they stop having
Yeah.
cable, has the town been receiving
Less.
how much less revenue?
Yeah, that's, and it's been, even the.
Now we
the
don't have a
select board
treasurer to tell us.
Also spoke about that.
That wasn't really something we had been tracking previously when we were doing the oversight. That wasn't, it was never discussed in any of the meetings that I
It was
attended.
like more of a curiosity than anything else.
So what is this that you're handing me?
That is a treasurer's report
No, we had
But-
a lot of information.
for
So-
June of last year.
Yeah, but could you show me a trend of every year, like she's asking, of as people cut?
Not right now, but.
That's all
we-
I'm saying, is that we
was-
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was reported.
Okay, could you show me on this where it shows the trend of how we've been?
No.
No,
Right, and that's
But-
all I was saying to her, is that we don't have that.
but I'm saying that we did have reports in the history, if you look at them, about what the subscriber base is, because it's the number of subscribers you end up having, and this is what I was saying before, that you have a certain ones for each of the different groups, whether it be for Verizon or Charter, as it were at the time. And you could see where people would shift from one company to another, and it would relatively stay the same, or you could see where there was a drop or a decrease in them. So you actually had more than just total. You could actually see the breakdown of where people were moving to, one way or the other. And that was basically all derived also by the revenue as it came in, because you could tell from the amount of dollars received from one cable subscriber from the other. You get an idea to see what the variation is, the amounts.
Actually, until things changed, I kept real close eye on all of this. Kept a little less close eye, but can tell how many subscribers you have very easily. You look at, we get a check from each company for 50 cents per subscriber. So you divide the
Total check by 2 and there you go.
Yeah, and it turns out that the companies, in all that I've seen, I haven't seen much real recently, but all for years now, all through the cable cord cutting. The breakdown, how many subscribers Charter has and how many Verizon has, the ratio has stayed almost exactly 2 to 1 for a long time. Now, I think the total numbers are going down, but they keep increasing their revenue, so that our numbers aren't changing hugely. I'm afraid we in what the latter part of our watching was drooping down, and we brought up many times in many meetings, we got to be very aware of cord cutting.
So when we did our annual report, did we include any of that, what our current subscriber number is and where it was in
No,
comparison?
and we didn't do it in the previous year either.
Okay, that's definitely something we should be doing going forward, so everybody's aware of what our current subscriber numbers are at, and that's a great way to keep tracking them going forward, so we know what the trend is doing.
Yeah, you'd have to have those numbers. You'd have to find the
Yeah,
payments.
yeah, but it sounds like if it's 50 cents like that, then it's great. It's like you said, we can just figure those numbers out, and then we can create that data going forward.
Back to the reorganization, do we have a treasurer?
We're
No.
not gonna have a treasurer right now, no.
No,
So
we-
there's no treasurer.
Until there's something for a
Okay,
treasurer
all right.
to do.
Just
She's
prepare
gonna,
it.
she's gonna figure that out.
Okay.
That's right. Yep. So, cause those checks are coming in, so it's easy enough to go get that information and then create the sheet, so that's,
Yeah, I think it'd be good for us to follow, but I don't wanna give anybody any extra work. You like work.
that is true.
There should be history somewhere though.
So we were getting pictures of those checks until
Right.
we became advisory committee. When we were
Exactly.
oversight, we were getting them.
Yep.
So those will all be readily available, and then I
Yep.
can just ask to be continuing to receive them, or just, give me a dollar amount, I don't need the picture, I don't know. We'll
Exactly.
figure out a way to get that information.
Yep.
Bob, was doing that. He's in the hall, he's there in the daytime, and he was having, over the last, I don't know, couple of years, more or less, a lot of trouble getting workable printouts and whatnot. He was having a lot of trouble. So you'll have to see what you can get. Hasn't there just been fairly recently a change in the accounting system?
No, I
Again?
wouldn't say recently. Mary Laurie has been there for,
Yeah, he used to go to Mary,
Okay,
but
there's, okay, I remember hearing something
he used to
about it.
cut and paste off
Sorry,
the ledger.
right,
Yeah,
and he would add
he had to do it.
that.
Yeah.
He kept having challenges.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're better able than I
Yeah, we can
to
do that.
get that.
And I do like the idea of getting other licensing agreements to make sure that we're still,
Even
No.
if it's some like one-time payment that some other town is getting, the answer is never gonna be yes if you don't ask.
right. Yep, I 100% agree. I like seeing what other people are doing to steal their good ideas and avoid their pitfalls. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to discuss about current license agreement at this time? Cause I think next time I'll try to get a couple agreements. Is there specific towns you guys wanna see?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I think ideally, it would be like similar in population
That was
Neighboring towns?
my take.
Yep.
and geographically close to us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because Worcester is definitely gonna get a different
No,
deal
Yeah.
The city.
than Grafton is.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
Okay.
that's,
I'm thinking like Westboro, thinking like,
Yeah.
that, in that kind of,
Sutton,
Yep.
Westboro is probably,
Millbury,
Millbury.
Northbridge.
Westboro is probably closer than some of the others. Shrewsbury is a very interesting case. because they own the cable company.
Really?
They are the cable company, they're the power company
And I
and,
don't wanna
and
look
the
at
cable.
theirs.
Interesting.
And then I don't wanna look at theirs.
No.
Well, so,
It might be interesting.
things are interesting there about
Sure.
that. And the guy that, you know, the Bob DeToma up there,
Department head?
has been there, I think ever since he left us about 1,000 years ago.
Oh, Shrewsbury?
Hmm?
In Shrewsbury?
Yeah.
Oh.
So once, you know,
Might have a
once every
connection.
10 or 15 years, I go up there and, hi, Bob, and I remember, and oh, yeah.
Oh, he's a Bob too, okay, another Bob.
So, but now if you go further afield, you know, to the smaller towns, that way, now you're beginning to look at, maybe they're not quite as up on it as we are.
They just have less leverage
Well,
because they don't have the
yeah,
population.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Northborough got a pretty good population.
Yeah.
Whitensville.
Southborough too is next to it.
Well,
Oh.
yeah, Southborough I think is going a little bit further, not neighboring, but, but,
It's all
Um,
relative.
Ashland,
Upton.
Ashland is
Upton.
the most comparable town to us, population-wise, budget-wise, it's not super close proximity, but Ashland's
But,
very.
I mean, it's
Pretty good
still,
size,
yeah.
Yeah, it's within,
yeah.
I've had
20
some
minutes.
interaction with them, I don't remember what it was.
Ashland?
About, you know, some of our stuff. Partly, because they were, I don't know, maybe they were involved in the same thing we were, or maybe it was somehow because we were kind of similar.
And I know the department head in Hopkinton, so that might just be easy just to get, cause
That
I
helps.
have a connection, so.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's certainly worth it, looking
Oh.
at this.
There is it's not time yet, but at least traditionally, there's a fairly long lead time, or it was when I did it, when the cable licensing process initiates. It's like you wanna be talking about that a year ahead.
Mhm.
Now so we have some time, but I think we wanna know,
Yeah.
and this will be there'll be a figuring out, who the council's gonna be, which will come from the administrator. I don't know, I think the administrator decides that, not the board, of course. The administrator does what the board wants, so
Mhm.
I'm not worried about it, but, I think the charter, well, he's in charge of the legal stuff.
Okay. Yep, cause that's what we're gonna be doing, is advising them when it comes time, so, you know, even if the first piece of advice is, it's time.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
like,
Yeah,
that's a
in
good
order
one.
to be able to do that, we have to know ahead of time when
Right.
it's gonna be time.
Right. And data like, this is what we've seen in other communities, this is what we've been seeing in subscriber numbers, so that's the kind of stuff they're gonna want from us, so if we start collecting that and compiling it now, and when we do our annual report, you know, it's gonna look a lot different, but it'll be, you know, that kind of stuff, that, you know, we're still offering great service, probably be two, three lines, but, that's what we'll be doing going forward, which is great. Conduct a public hearing, I'm not gonna worry about that for at least a year.
There is, I remember, I don't know where that came from. You know, you can do that, I guess, cause, it hasn't happened in a long time. I guess that we do have a public hearing as part of the licensing process, that's, you know, one time in the progression during that renewal year. If the license doesn't conflict with it, or licenses don't conflict with it, perfectly happy to have a public hearing, people can come and complain. We don't get anywhere near the kind of complaints we used to.
right.
Is that data we've been tracking? The types of complaints, the number of complaints?
We used to get a report like that way back from Charter or Greater Grafton Cablevision. but that's like 30 years ago. And it wasn't very helpful. No, we don't get, I don't think we get, that's complaints going to them. We're talking about people coming into town hall or
Right.
emailing us, or, we had one time down at the studio when we met down there. We walked in, and the room was full of people, and there was like 10 or 20, you remember this? Were 10 or 20 people there to complain, or, you know, there was some issue. Well, okay, we talked, and I don't know, resolve what it was about. But other than that, you know, I don't know when I've gotten a call, in recent times, anybody complaining.
Goes direct to the provider.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Goes direct to the provider.
Well, that would be normal, but we can, you know, if there's an issue,
Usually town meeting. Town meeting is usually when I notice somebody complaining about cable access. I can't hear it, you know, that's generally the types of stuff we hear. And when they're watching town meeting, that's a difficult feed. It's a live feed in a room that we're not typically operating in, and, but we've been trying to dial that in over the last couple of years, so.
Yeah, and also, I suppose it's channel selections about what they have and what they wanna have, why they dropped this, and.
Why is
you know,
cable so expensive?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
it's just the,
there's a whole lot of stuff that the town's not allowed to,
which we have no control over, many of that.
you know. That stayed the same since, you know, it was, what, 84 when this committee, right after charter license was adopted, granted for the first time, or not, Greater Grafton Cablevision. The company is, the name is.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing I could think of that was very slow going, and that was on the very first license agreement set up with Verizon, was that one of the commitments that they had to have was they had to offer it to every single household in the town. But there were certain complexes, which was underground, where they didn't have any easy way of being able to put in the lines. So the agreement was they had to have it done by a certain length of time, as specified in the agreement. They never met the deadline. But eventually they ended up getting them there, but I mean, they were in breach of the contract, although we never pressed on any of the issues on it.
The original license for Greater Grafton Charter started off that in those days, in the early 80s, it wasn't so common to say you're going to serve every home. They just wanted to come in and go where they wanted to go.
The easiest places they could get.
Where they can
Well,
make
you know,
money.
Yeah.
the ones that have the most people per cable mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a process of the select board can call a company in and, you know, we're having this problem. And, you know, it would be a buildup from here.
Yeah.
Or maybe people would go direct now. I mean, would have to keep up with Facebook now. What people are complaining about. I've answered a few people there, you know.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there that can't get the cable connected, but, you know, it's a technical issue that it's up too long a driveway and there's something they can't blah, 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 and they don't know enough technically to know why it is. I've been back and forth with them once or twice.
Yeah.
I think more of the complaints we've had have been our own internal complaints with, you know, connections with Potter Hill and noise or other factors that we're having to deal with and get corrected, and having to keep sending people out, fix this, and say, oh, there's no problem here, and the other is still a problem, and having to trace it down and taking a long time, several months, before they're actually able to resolve it. So
And
those
you know,
are the ones I'd say the biggest complaints is our own.
Yeah, during COVID, there was, you know, a lot more people tuning in, and we were tweaking a lot more stuff during that time too. I remember Detomo was working really closely, cause I don't have the technical knowledge, but there was something technically going wrong, but they couldn't identify if it was us or it was them, and they didn't wanna say it was them, but it was not us, so it was, but it seemed to has
Yeah.
resolved.
I went back and forth with, our operators here, because it was a problem on one of the audio, I think
It was audio.
probably the charter audio, but, no, I kept just interacting a little bit, but, okay, they're supposed, so-and-so's supposed to come out again next week, and blah, 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 and it probably filtered up pretty well.
Yeah, I was hearing about that, yep.
And, you know, we do what we can, we used to have more technical people who could interact, we still have one or two.
Nice. Alright, do you guys wanna keep talking about this, or do you wanna move on to minutes, and I didn't see any minutes, did we?
I gave you draft one, which
Yeah.
you wanted me to correct, and I send out draft two.
I missed draft two, can I borrow that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I highlighted, I think you might see it.
Oh,
Show
okay.
highlight, that was the
In
change.
red. Well, it was, yes, it's in red. This is for
March,
March.
last month.
Alright, well, I can take a motion, did you get a chance to look at these at all?
Yes.
Okay, great. Alright, I can take a motion to approve the minutes from March 12th, 2025.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, could you just send me those again, so I could submit them to be posted
Sure.
online? Thank you.
Yep.
Alright,
I'm curious, a whole bunch, like, many sets of minutes from last year, all of a sudden popped up on the website, the town website, on our page.
Yeah, well, I had sent some before, but they weren't getting posted, and I said, what's going on here? How come they're not going on there? So,
Okay,
so I
and
sent them the
Did you do
whole.
something?
What?
Did you contact them or no?
Yeah, I did.
What triggered them?
I said, because they weren't there. I kept sending
Yeah,
some, but
but
they
what triggered them to do something?
I guess my final email said, look, these are all missing, they need to be
Right.
posted, so
Yeah, how
For
are
all
we
the
doing,
attachments.
that went up to, well, I've forgotten when, but late last year, but there's, maybe 4 sets of minutes, 3 or 4 sets of minutes that aren't accounted for.
well, there's some like, January, cause there was no meeting.
Well, on the webpage, someone has
Okay.
put,
I haven't looked.
probably Bob, has put links to the minutes, which I thought was interesting, to all of the minutes, and I wanna, maybe ask Bob about, being sure that we're posted, with all of them, because you would have, what he means if
Yeah.
we're not.
I made copies with all of them,
Mhm.
anybody reviews any of the past ones here.
and are these the dates, have you seen what he's talking about? Are those the dates that you were emailing about?
I can review my email.
A lot of
sent out.
2024 ones.
Yeah, it was basically, yeah, it was catching everything up with, what was missing,
Alright, and
which was in
so,
2024.
I don't wanna,
Here, this is the page that I'm talking about.
Okay, I haven't seen this yet. So that's how they're doing it?
Well, that's what's on the Cable Advisory Committee page.
So it sounds like they group all of them on one particular date.
Well, I've never
instead of-
seen minutes dealt with this way
No.
before.
Oh,
I think that page, I'm not sure, I suspect Bob Determined may be, the one managing it, but see, I can't do this job anymore.
okay, so what I see online, where minutes typically go, they're all there except for August 13th.
Except,
So if you go to the agenda center, where most people would go looking for minutes,
Oh, yeah.
all the minutes are there except
Oh.
August 13th.
okay.
So those look good, and
Okay.
then additionally, so maybe, and I'm I'm almost positive we voted,
There is no August 13th,
so that could be why.
August 19th.
Well, I'm in the agenda center, it looks like maybe we were gonna meet the 13th and ended up meeting the 19th.
Right.
So that's great that there's no minutes for that one, and like you said, in January, it looks like there was a posted meeting and amended meeting in the minutes, so all of 2024 is up in the agenda center and easily found, it looks like it's just gonna be in 2 places on the website. Maybe we can clean that up on our page, and then for 2025,
But you haven't, probably no reason you would have.
I was just looking at that, yeah, it was,
This is the website,
correct, that's on,
not the
Agenda center.
agenda center.
right, so that's on our page, which I guess if people are coming and they're interested, making it accessible to them in 2 locations isn't the worst thing.
No, it's fine, I don't know whether it needs to be on the front page, but.
Yeah, I agree, I don't know if it needs to be there,
But
it's,
that's okay. No, I see, 3/15/24 through 10/24/24, but then we met in November
Yes.
Correct.
and December.
Yes.
Yes.
and those are in the agenda center though, so we don't have to worry about,
Well,
yeah,
it'd be nice to have this work, it would be.
if we're gonna
be
do it, have it
consistent,
complete, okay,
So that I don't get confused any more than I
okay,
2025, there was no January,
Yep.
February, and we just did March.
yep, perfect. Do you typically submit them to the clerk's office after we vote? Okay, so I don't have to worry about that, so you don't have to send me that email then,
Okay.
that's why I was asking, so I could submit it, so if you're gonna submit it, fantastic. Awesome, and then the next is gonna be meeting dates, so when do you guys wanna meet next?
Oh, we're not, we did minutes, but, access activity report, I thought we were still going to be getting that, so we'd know what was going on.
And wasn't Bob Tatoma going to be attending?
Datoma's, he's been submitting a written report,
Mm-hmm.
but he was submitting, copies of bills and, the other things too. But we don't have, access is the most important thing that, or has been to us. And I think it's gotten to be an important thing for the town, particularly our public stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be good for us to be keeping our eye on it.
Yeah, sure.
And I take it, but it had been coming to me, and it didn't come to me this time.
I can reach out to him now that, again, that the committee's kind of changed its makeup a little bit, maybe he was unclear what we were looking for in
Or
access
maybe
report?
all my confusion about,
Yeah.
my email is broken today and yesterday.
Yeah, I can get on something, so, moving forward, and like you said, we wanna see those checks, those payments as they're coming in, that's how we're gonna track subscribers, so that would be included in an activity report, I would like to see that. We don't necessarily need it in real time, but that's, as the data comes in, we're gonna want it.
It seems I recall that Bob Tatoma says he was gonna be attending the committee meetings quarterly.
Mhm.
We haven't seen him for the first quarter of this year.
I can reach out, I can touch base, so.
Maybe he thinks that changed too.
Perhaps.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change, I wouldn't,
Be nice, though, if you're gonna change that, to let the committee know.
did you reach out to him at all, or no? When you were chair?
No.
4 minutes ago? Okay.
No.
All right.
I include him on the agenda inputs request, and then I send to him when the next meeting is gonna be,
Mhm.
and he sends back,
The meeting link.
essentially, we're gonna use the room, and here's the
The link for the meeting.
Zoom
Okay,
stuff, and then I think at a separate step, he was doing what happened in the studio, and here are the bills, and so on.
yeah, we don't need the bills anymore, I don't think.
Well, we don't need the bills, I'd love to be able to watch the money, how are we doing, but that's,
I think
we
we can
talked
do
about
that
that
at,
already.
once a year, you know what I mean? At the end of the year, during budget cycle, we'll figure it out, cause it's not really anywhere in our charge to be
Mhm.
following the money, so.
Yeah, except I think that it was, something that the, what's his name? Financial, for the town,
Mary Lauria,
no, his name, the,
town administrator,
town administrator, sorry.
Evan?
Yeah, Evan, right, was saying that meeting with us quarterly was reasonable to have him come in.
Oh, we're talking about two different things. Yep, I agree. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I can reach out to the department head and then he was saying he wants to follow the money, and I was thinking that maybe annually we get an update of what came in, what came out, where
Okay.
we stand. Because I don't think we need to be watching it every month, and, you know, as a license, if we're getting close, like you were saying, 2 to 3 years, so we're getting closer to one, right? So meeting, but I don't know if we necessarily need to keep meeting every month either. Like, we might be able to move to a quarterly meeting schedule as well. I think right now it wouldn't make sense. We're still getting our feet wet. We're reorganizing on how we wanna operate, but once we get all of our data in place, meeting once a quarter kinda makes sense too, because there's gonna be that much to talk about, right? We're gonna just keep having the same conversation each time, so not super productive. But we'll see. I don't think that we're there just yet. I think we have like a lot to go over, a lot to collect, so that's exciting. But once we've achieved all that, it might make sense to move to a more, you know, extended meeting period. We can talk about that when we think we've gotten there, though.
Your meeting date then?
Yeah, I mean, are you all done talking about the activity report?
Well, I did,
Okay, great.
because I don't have much to say about it, because I can't see it. Let me see, calendar, what was I just thinking?
So I'm gonna say right now, May 21st would most likely be our next meeting date.
Wednesday.
Yeah, and I will most likely be fried, because I'm gonna be at the polls all day the day before. So I can't guarantee you're gonna get the best performance on me. I'm probably gonna wanna be asleep, to be honest. So if everybody's okay with doing the 28th, just pushing it a week out and doing it at the end of May, instead of the third Wednesday, maybe do the fourth Wednesday, I would appreciate that if that works for people.
You want it the 28th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
May 28th.
I have no idea what you'll be doing that Tuesday.
I hope I know what I'm doing that Tuesday, but we'll see.
No, you know, I just,
We'll see what Grafton says, but
there's a lot of energy going into this election.
sure is.
I mean, I've been through a lot of elections.
Yeah.
Um,
Exciting.
So cable here, 7 o'clock.
May 28th, Wednesday.
On, Wednesday, May 28th, 7 o'clock.
All right, I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I
Second.
second it.
Motion made and seconded. That is not debatable.
Don't you forget that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.